What's up, Southeast Michigan Podcast? Back for another episode. Didn't plan on this one, but figured we'd throw this one into this week's mix. Already plan on doing the beginning of the Big Ten preview breakdown. So if you want to head over and listen to episode 51, I dropped that yesterday. Basically recapping over the last 2 weeks that we've been kind of off with recruiting and everything. I did have one blunder with that when we did the recruiting portion, everything like that. Other than that smooth episode, we talked about Pat McAfee's comments about the walk-on rule that is being tossed around, and what was the other thing? We talked about the early signing period that got kind of shut down by coaches and athletic directors and the people in charge, the powers that be, kind of shot that down. Like, we already have an early signing day period in December, and then the regular one in February. Now there's talk that there's even going to be an earlier one, or at least the idea of one in June. So if you want to head over, listen to episode 51 that dropped a couple days ago, or was it yesterday? And tell me what you think. A lot of conversation there, and Pat McAfee being a walk-on himself, is really passionate about it. So we did chit chat about that. In this episode, I wanted to at least knock out what I missed yesterday, and that is one of the commits that took place over last weekend. And since we've been off, was Caden Strayhorn, also inside offensive lineman, guard, legacy Michigan State potential commit. His dad, Jason Strayhorn, was part of Spartan Radio, or still is a part of Spartan the radio broadcast. But Caden Strayhorn committed to the Wolverines, and pretty much can go anywhere he wants with the scholarship offers. He did choose the Wolverines though, and he went out and flat out said that Michigan State kind of just stopped recruiting him. Michigan pursued him, and it really came after the Mel Tucker transition to Jonathan Smith, and he feels like that Michigan State just didn't feel like they had a shot at him anymore because of the higher up tier schools that were going after him. So either way, it sounds like he's locked in 100% with Michigan. So I don't see him decommitting or anything like that. But his dad's supportive, and Caden wants to go out there and make his own legacy, which is really cool. But just thought it was really interesting that Michigan State just kind of backed off. Now, if you go on the Facebook page, the Southeast Michigan Podcast, I posted the screenshot of what Caden Strayhorn actually said word for word verbatim. So if you want to read that, go ahead and hit up the Facebook page. I may or may not have retweeted it online as well. So again, welcome back. Thank you for watching or listening. Free and available wherever you get the podcast, or watch on YouTube. Click the bell, subscribe. Same run-of-the-mill goody two-shoe stuff. So this is like a hybrid pop-up episode. Nothing crazy in terms of length, but I wanted to get into a few things that kind of arose over the last 24 hours. I wanted to read some of these articles that popped up, and we got some more college football video game news, and throughout the whole entire week we will. I wanted to do this little pop-up episode because I just didn't know if we'd be able to fit it with our season preview, because I feel like when we do those two teams each episode, I just don't know if there'll be enough time for other nonsense. So try to keep that like its own entity, its own baby. Okay, so let me let's pop this over. And there's a few graphics too, fun graphics that I want to get into today as well. So I don't, let's see, this article isn't I guess, let's see. This one I don't think is particularly a long article, but we'll read it. Let me turn on the browser. Okay, so if you're watching right here, here we go. So this article dropped actually yesterday from On3 by Nick Schultz. And if you can see right here, Nick Schultz. I I I don't know what that character is. Underscore. There you go. _7 on Twitter/X. All right. So right here, NCAA Division I Council votes to remove cannabinoids from banned drug class for football postseason participation. Now, figured we'd read this, whatever, because I thought it was an interesting headline. The NCAA Division I Council voted to remove cannabinoids from its banned drug class for football postseason participation Tuesday. The decision won't be official until the meeting ends on Wednesday, according to the announcement. According to current NCAA policy, cannabinoids are one of the 5 substances tested for ahead of championships and postseason football games. The NCAA also tests for beta 2 agonists, beta blockers, stimulants, and narcotics ahead of those events. Cannabinoids include cannabis and cannabidiol, CBD. The NCAA says in its policy, cannabis use and linked to anxiety, panic, reactions, respiratory damage, short-term memory impairment, and decreased focus on goals and personal achievement. Cannabinoids are banned by the NCAA and result in suspension. Cannabinoids are just one part of the decisions made by the D1 Council on Tuesday. The group also introduced a proposal to shorten the transfer portal windows for football from 45 days to 30 days, and that vote is coming up in October. More on NCAA's decision on the cannabinoids. The D1 Council's decision comes after an NCAA committee on competitive safeguards and medical aspects of sports recommended removing cannabinoids from the banned drugs class. The recommendation came in September 2023, and the committee released a statement on the decision. The NCAA Committee on Competitive Safeguards and Medical Aspects of Sports recommended that each of the 3 divisional governance bodies introduce and adopt legislation that would remove cannabinoids from the list of NCAA banned drug classes, the press release read at the time. Committee members who met this week in Indianapolis also recommended the development of a robust educational strategy to accompany a potential change to cannabinoid legislation. The timing of discussion and adoption of possible legislation is a decision that will be made by each of 3 NCAA divisional governance structures. This recommendation is based on extensive study informed by industry and subject matter experts, including doctors, substance misuse experts, and membership practitioners. The NCAA added that the idea for a change on the matter was informed by the December 2022 Summit on Cannabinoids in College Athletics. According to the NCAA, the consensus opinion formed from that summit was that cannabis is not a performance enhancing drug and that a harm reduction approach to cannabis is best implemented at the school level. The NCAA said by removing cannabinoids from the banned substance list, it will acknowledge how ineffective the current policy is and affirm the role program has in focusing only on performance enhancing drugs. So there you go. Thought I'd read that because I thought it was quite interesting, and we are ever so adapting into the great future and beyond. Next one is a very interesting article and a rule change where the possibilities are endless. Okay, the possibilities are endless, and it's funny seeing that this came out, or this rule that I'm about to read for you that's now being changed is kind of what Jim Harbaugh got busted for on the Burger Gate. The COVID, you know, on-field coaching, blah blah blah. During the dead period, all that bullcrap nonsense. So get a load of this. This just perfectly timed out the way it did. This is also an On 3 by Pete Nakos. NCAA Division I Council passes unlimited college football coaching staff size for 2024 season. The college football playoff is expanding to 12 teams starting with the 2024 season. The gap between the Power 4 and the other 28 Division I conferences is only growing in terms of the House settlement and revenue sharing. Now, college football coaching staffs will have a new look in the 2024 season. The NCAA Division I Council voted Tuesday to expand college football coaching staffs, allowing an unlimited number of assistants to instruct athletes. Its annual meetings in Indianapolis, the 40-person council representing all 32 Division I conferences moves to allow all staff members to provide technical and tactical instruction to athletes during practice and games. For years, analysts and quality control coaches have been limited to assisting off the field through watching film and providing expertise in creating game day strategy. Now they can help athletes grow on the field. The decision eliminates the NCAA's 11 accountable coaches policy, allowing just 10 assistants and a head coach to provide on field instruction. The rule has become antiquated as top programs now employ a variety of analysts, quality control coaches, recruiting coordinators, player personnel directors, general managers, and scouts. The move also ensures the NCAA doesn't face any future legal action from college football coaches. Certain positions will benefit from the decision. Speaking to sources in college football world this week, optimism was high, with many expecting the vote would pass. Still, some were nervous after the Division I Council initially rejected the proposal in the spring of 2023. The proposal has garnered support from the American Football Coaches Association. Sources have indicated to On3 that quarterback, middle linebacker, and special teams are key positions to watch where programs will look to leverage the rule. The decision is the latest change to the college football game. The NCAA's Playing Rules Oversight Panel approved adding helmet communication for FBS games and 2-minute timeouts at the end of each half in April. FBS programs will have the option to use coach to player communications through the helmet of a player in the upcoming season. Communication will be shut off with 15 seconds left on the play clock or snap off the ball, whichever comes first. Let's see here real quick. Win for college football coaching development. The new policy will keep the number of off-campus recruits to 11, including head coaches. FCS would be able to have 13 assistants recruit off-campus at the FBS level. Head coaches could designate any 10 staffers as accountable coaches who can recruit off campus. Industry sources believe the unlimited coaching staffs could lead to a top group of 5 assistants taking analyst or assistant roles with major programs. College football staffs will have similar titles to their NFL counterparts. The future role of graduate assistants is unknown, too. More staff members assisting with day-to-day ops change the impact of graduate assistants. However, the new policy allows younger assistants to start coaching earlier. It's going to be beneficial. I love that everybody that's inside the building, hopefully this gets passed and these guys can go coach. Mississippi State first-year head coach Jeff Lebby told On3. It helps the development of coaches. For me, having these guys in the building right now as analysts and freeing them up will be awesome. And at the end of the day, everybody's still going to be very similar with the standpoint of being a GA and then being an analyst and that kind of being the transition into getting your first one job. There's still going to be a bunch of similarities in people's past. All right, so there, I wanted to read that. I thought that was interesting because, again, Jim Harbaugh got in trouble and then did the self-suspension thing here last year because of Burgergate and the coaching analyst or whatever during the dead period. So, can I hire any number of guys and bring in maybe former players, and big or small, to experts to come in and give their insight and their tutelage. Be interesting to see on uh, how this plays out and what strategies are used. I know some of these Ohio State fans are already chomping at the bit on Twitter today, talking about, get Jim Trussell back in there, get Urban Meyer back there. They can't wait to get Urban back in there because they know Ryan Day is soft as hell. Just kidding. But not really. So yeah, I thought that was interesting read, and the NCAA, you know, it's pretty clear that there's always been a rift between Jim Harbaugh and the NCAA. Whatever Jim advocates or whatever he goes against the grain and stands up for something, shortly thereafter, there's a rule in place or the NCAA does something, whatever, that they initially hated Jim for speaking up about, but then role reversed. So, for example, is the revenue sharing, right? Jim Harbaugh was at the forefront for several years pushing for that, and then he goes off to the Chargers, and there you go. Now there's revenue sharing. Um, so yeah, there's that. When we come back, we are going to chit chat about some of these graphics that came online and some NCAA football video game stuff. Don't go nowhere. When our community wins with us, we want to ensure you've maximized your ROI. Line shopping for the best odds matters, and that is why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books. Thankfully, there's never been a better time to get signed up, and we are here to connect you with the best promotions industry wide. Using our link, signupexpert.com/southeast, you can get access to all of the sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique features. Most importantly, this page automatically connects you to the top promotions at each book, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. If you want to take advantage of these benefits and support our brand, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook at signupexpert.com/southeast. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about. Can you see that? There we go. There we go. All right, so the college football video game dropped another like 3-minute video with some overview from Kirk Herbstreit, and you get to see a little bit more gameplay and more of the aspect of home field advantage and stuff like that. And they have a ranking system that is subject to change, and I'm sure will change during your experience of the video game itself, or when you're playing, PvP online, and it'll adapt throughout the real life season as well. But top 25 toughest places to play. They're factoring in historical stats such as home winning percentage, home game attendance, active home winning streaks, team prestige, and more. So that's the formula that they use. And if you are watching right now, you can see what exactly they put out there. So 25th is Mississippi State, then Boise State at 24, 23 is Arkansas, 22 is Michigan State, then Notre Dame, Iowa, Texas, Utah, Virginia Tech, Michigan at 16, South Carolina, Auburn, Tennessee, Clemson, Oregon, Florida, Florida State, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Penn State, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, and then Texas A&M. The initial look at this was who's at one, and when you see Kyle Field, you're going like, huh, what? Now it's impossible that any of us, unless you are rolling in the money bags, been to each one of these stadiums, right? But we, as fans, go to some of the games, especially the ones that are closest to us, right, or our favorite, and then what we see on TV. First, Kyle Field. I don't watch typically a lot of SEC games, and real quick, when I do the Big Ten preview, obviously the first year was last year doing it, but I've always particularly watched the Big Ten games over the SEC. One, because of potentially playing one of those guys, so like I'd rather watch Iowa versus Northwestern than Mississippi State versus Georgia or whatever. And even though one of those games on the SEC might be on prime time, I'd rather watch the Big Ten one. I know people might think that's weird. I might watch the boring Big Ten game compared to the high flying SEC action, but there's familiarity there. It's somewhat more regional, and again, that's someone in your conference that I'm watching. And so when I don't really watch a lot of Texas A&M games, but I can tell you right now, Kyle Field, I'm like, I don't know, man. I just feel like that's just a kind of a reach. Sure, it's loud. I feel like maybe top seven. So I would drop them back instantly. Um, LSU should, I think. I mean, they're at 3 here. I think maybe one is rightfully deserving. Ohio State being at 4, fair. Yeah, if they were at 6, I'd be like, okay. Penn State at 6, though, I'd probably move them up. Being there in person wasn't a night game whiteout, but I was there last year, as some of you obviously know, for the Michigan game, and it was at noon, and that was, I believe, a stripe out. I, well, yeah, that was a stripe out game, and so we wore maize intentionally because I think our section was blue. But that place is loud, and I feel like, judging by what we've seen in 2018, 2019, when Michigan's on the road, and there's that instant false start or a delay of game because you can't hear anything. I mean, that right there should tell you that Penn State should be at least in third. Next is Camp Randall at 7. I always, Camp Randall is a tough place to play. Michigan won there in 21 for the first time in quite some time. I still think that it's a little crazy to have in the top 10. I'd probably put Wisconsin a little farther back. And again, I'm sure their their home game win percentage is probably rather impressive. Um, I just don't know if it's that loud. And the jump around thing is very cool and unique. I hear that it's not going to be in the college game because of licensing with the music and everything, but um, Wisconsin a bit high. Next is, I think Florida is way too low. They should be up higher. Oregon should definitely be up higher. That place gets pretty rowdy. Autzen Stadium, that's being underrated there. Um, Michigan at 16. That's somewhat fair. If they were at 12 or 13, I would be okay with that. Michigan has gotten a lot better, and at the turning point with the whole program winning 3 Big Ten titles in a row in the national championship, a lot of that too came with the atmosphere inside the stadium. Okay, that Washington game in 21, that was where the baton was picked up and it took off. Right. Um, it's definitely gotten louder in there. I've been to several games in over the last few years. It's definitely gotten better. I've almost been thrown out of the Michigan Stadium before because I was standing, or I think there was the 2012 Michigan was playing Northwestern at home, and I believe that was a last drive. I want to say that overtime. I want to say that was like the final minutes. Michigan won it, and I believe Devin Garner threw a tip drill pass to Roy Roundtree near the goal line, and then they ran it in to go up or to tie, something like that. I can't remember very much. This seems so long ago. Uh, but I remember I was getting pretty rowdy in there. I wasn't really swearing, but I think there were some Northwestern fans or whatever, and I think there was a play where you could call pass interference, or the fullback from Northwestern dropped it. Something happened, and the fans, they were booing, the Northwestern fans, and I had said something along the lines of "Get that purple rain bleep out of here." And an older Michigan fan in front of me that was wearing headphones, go figure, turned around and said, "You are something about, you're an asshole," or something like that. And I'm like, okay. Anyways, drag that on a little too far. But what I'm saying is Michigan fans have been kind of like that. They sit the headphones on, they sit down, they get mad. People are standing, and they're not very loud, and it's gotten better, like I said. But the way the stadium is structured is the sound doesn't get trapped in there; it goes right up. That stadium would benefit so great so greatly with end zone upper decks. I mean, I don't like sitting in nosebleeds, but you could fit. I mean, we're at 110,000 per game right now. You'd add another add another 10,000 just with two upper decks on each side, and who knows how that sound would be because now you have those press boxes on each side that are, you know, helping a little bit. Anyways, you get my point. Um, Next is Iowa at 20. Feel like that's rather low. Feel like that could be in the teens somewhere. Um, there's a weird vibe, right? We talk about it all the time as Michigan fans. When Michigan goes to Kinnick Stadium, day, night, mostly at night, there's a weird voodoo vibe. There's something about that blackout Iowa. They do it right. Haven't been there. Can't wait to be there eventually. Um, but I think it should be in the teens. Next, Notre Dame at 21. I mean, that stadium is South Bend is it's kind of built like Michigan Stadium, right? It's kind of like the big house, one press box and scoreboard and sound going straight up. I'd I don't know. I feel like Notre Dame could probably be 25. I mean, is it really that intimidating? I don't know. Um, Spartan Stadium, Michigan State at 22. I know Michigan fans have. I've called Michigan students out, like it matters, from an average Joe like myself. But Michigan students have been kind of a bummer, from time to time, leaving that top part of the student section blank, whether they arrive late or leave early. You notice when the camera during in game kind of sits lower because they want to capture the atmosphere and they wanted to promote it like it's huge. But like when you have 15 rows missing, you'll notice the broadcast kind of pan down a little bit, to hide it. Um, and Michigan State is kind of the same way. But my bias here is going to say that they're a little bit more embarrassing about it. Um, Michigan State, the way that they file down is their upper deck sometimes will be almost completely barren, and then they'll be all crowded down low, and usually it's when they're getting their ass kicked or they're having a poor part of the season. And so with Spartan Stadium, when they are competing for a Big Ten championship, like 2021, they're going to have a full house rocking. But on a given day, I just don't see 2022, or excuse me, I don't see them at 22. I don't see them being ranked at all. So my Sparty hate and bias is going to show right there. After that, Arkansas, Boise State, Mississippi State. I couldn't care less. Honestly, I mean, I don't even know if Boise State has a student section more than 150 people there. Um, and I think Mississippi State's here because they don't. I think the Bulldogs fans they use cowbells, like that makes sense. So yeah, really that's all I have. Uh, Mainly get Texas A&M the hell out of there and move LSU up. Um, Real quickly, if we move over here, this was done by College Football Report. This was um, their take on it, their spin. And as you can see, they brought in Nebraska, which is a good one. They're at 25. Um, Memorial Stadium gets rocking the black shirts. That's a rowdy student section, especially um, when they're in the game and when they're having an optimistic uh, September, right? Uh, Notre Dame's still in here. Weird. Again, I think Iowa should be higher than 20. They brought in Husky Stadium, so Washington. That was another big one. Michigan at 9, rather generous, but I'll take it. Beaver Stadium at 5, very nice. Ohio State, okay. LSU at 1, and then Clemson up at 2. Awesome. This is just overall a lot better. This is what it should be. I'm sure the EA Sports fellows are reading this loud and clear. But yeah. Next, another graphic here was for the college game. Let's go look at this. This is dynamic attendance. So let me read this real quick. So while we were talking about the dynamic field or the crowd, a new feature to help bring more authenticity into the game revolves around attendance levels in the stadium. To help paint a better picture, here is a great example from one of our team members who was playing a dynasty with FIU, Florida International. During the first couple of games, the stands were not very full, which resulted in a lower home field advantage stadium pulse. Once he landed a big win on the road at Indiana, and the team record was 7-0, the stands were becoming more full to start the game. By the end of the season, with a 10-1 record and finishing in the top 25 rankings, home games would result in a sellout crowd, and the home field advantage pulse meter was now rocking high on the way to the conference championship. Now, I don't know if I'm misremembering. I still play the hell out of NCAA 14. I probably won't once this game comes out. But I'm pretty sure something similar happened like this in the old one where, you take over a pitiful program and you build them up, the crowd does generally fill out a little bit more. So we've kind of seen something similar to this, but this one probably be a little bit more, uh, I guess, dynamic, right? All right, next graphic that I wanted to look at. Not that one. This one right here. Top 25 running backs of the college football playoff era. This one, again, was cut by the College Football Report, as you can see. So, Jonathan Taylor, number 1. Travis Etienne, 2. Christian McCaffrey, 3. Melvin Gordon, 4. Derrick Henry, 5. And as you can see, the rest of them here. The Michigan, the lone Michigan running back on here is Blake Corum. He's at 20. And he's right before Kenneth Walker III from Michigan State. So I know MSU fans are butthurt he wasn't a Heisman Trophy winner in 21. And Blake Corum is ahead of him here in the rankings, and they don't like to hear that Blake Corum is better than him. So I'm sure that they roll their eyes at that. But Nick Chubb at 10, Sonny Michel 11. Got a couple of Ohio State guys in here. I like that there's a couple Indiana guys in here. And Tevin Coleman at 22 and Samaje Perine at 23. I can't remember if Perine was coached by Mike Hart, but I know Tevin Coleman was. And if you guys know me, when I praise Mike Hart, I praise the job that he did with Tevin Coleman and Jonathan Howard. I know they didn't have lengthy, gaudy stats or careers in the NFL, but they did a phenomenal job in Bloomington. Yeah. So next graphic is this one. Big Ten teams last national championship. I figured I'd show this before we actually get into the Big Ten season preview. So as you can see, the last national championship for Michigan, of course, was 2023. Ohio State 2014. USC 2004. Nebraska 1997. Put that half fraction right there. 1991 Washington. 1986 Penn State. 1966 Michigan State, 1960 Minnesota, and believe it or not, Minnesota is number 3 in all Big Ten conference championships all time. If you don't believe me, go ahead and look. Iowa 1958, UCLA 1954, Maryland 1953, Illinois 1927, and look at this, Rutgers 1869. Look at that, coming off the Civil War. Rutgers out here winning natty horse and buggy and firing off muskets when they score a touchdown, winning probably 15-0. Hell of a team, that 1869 team. And then the 5 Big Ten teams that have not won a national championship ever is Oregon, Indiana, Purdue, Northwestern, and Wisconsin. And let's face it, out of the group of 5 right there, Oregon has got literally the only shot to ever do it. Sorry, Northwestern. You're building a sweet ass stadium, but it's not going to matter. Wisconsin, probably never. Indiana, not going to happen. Purdue, not going to happen. Sorry. It is what it is. That's going to do it for this episode, right? We're going to end on that. Like I said, Purdue, UCLA coming up in the next episode, episode 53. This is episode 52, piggybacking off of 51, and chit-chatting about college ball in general. All right, folks, I will see you guys in the next episode. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Everything in the description box below. Giveaways are coming up, so stay tuned for that. Go Blue.